Well, Texas Tech did it. They have set up likely College Gameday next week for Tech and BYU. Big 12 game of the year. Looks like it's going to be coming right at you. Welcome in, John Kurtz. The Big 12 is open for business. Best Big 12 channel and podcast that is out there on planet Earth. Thank you for watching here. This is not going to be a total live show. I may run this as a premiere, so pay attention, because if I run it as a premiere, if you're commenting, I won't be able to respond to it, okay? I'm getting you a little bit of post-game before I hop on and do my 3-month post-game, but I know I've got K-State fans out there. I know I've got Texas Tech fans out there. You guys want to know about this game. I was here in Manhattan for this one, and frankly, it's one where Texas Tech just leaned on its defense. Yes, they gave up 20 points, but that defense, the playmakers showed throughout. The game breakers broke the game. That is really what happened. Jacob Rodriguez, the headliner of that, but the defensive line got to tee off at the end of the game, and Tech just sort of enforced its will gradually over the course of the game. K-State, way too many turnovers, put the ball on the turf too many times, both with fumbles and drops. That's generally your story of the game. So we'll talk plenty about that. I want to touch briefly on what happened to Houston today as well, with a 10-point loss to West Virginia. Houston fans, I'm just saying, I did try to warn you, okay? I put you at least on upset alert a bit, and that came to fruition. Unfortunately, I hate it for you, and congrats to West Virginia. Huge win. Happy for West Virginia fans in the midst of what's happened this year. But yeah, Arizona State stays alive too, by the way, with what happened with Jeff Sims, the Jeff Sims show in Ames. All right, so we've got a lot to cover here. And once again, reminder, you can drop me a super chat. That would be great. But if you do, just know I cannot respond to it. I may run this as a recorded video. I'm going to try and do a premiere. So as I say this, I don't know exactly how it'll go. But if it's a premiere, it'll act like I'm live, but I'm not actually live. Okay, so a little wink and a nudge there. But please like the video, subscribe to the channel. All of that stuff really helps. Okay, Tech's defense is as good as advertised. Like that, I actually felt like Matt Wells, K-State's offensive coordinator today, storyline with the Red Raiders, right, being the former Tech head coach. I actually felt like he did a pretty good job today trying to come up with some stuff, especially early in the game, when K-State really had a chance to jump out in front. And they did 7-0, but they had a chance to go up 10-0 or 14-0. A Jace Brown drop was definitely a 3-point at least drop when K-State had a short field early on. So there were things working outside of Matt Wells' control that really hurt his offense. But I think he actually did a pretty good job of finding ways to manufacture a running game, most of it with Avery Johnson's legs, and get K-State's offense some juice against a really tough defense. But, man, Texas Tech came up with big plays. Like, I know K-State fans will look at this game, and on the 3-month postgame show, I'm sure there will be a lot of lamenting about Jace Brown's terrible game in the first half, in particular when he had one fumble that turned into a drop, one fumble that was actually a fumble, but maybe not a fumble. And then he has another key drop that cost them the 3 points. But, man, it's like Jacob Rodriguez was just running around making plays. Garrett Oakley is K-State's other big target, the tight end. He fumbled one of those that Jacob Rodriguez came and punched out. It looked like Oakley even had 2 hands on the ball when that happened. So Tech's playmakers were making plays. Like that's what this was to me for the defense. The final numbers are crazy. Tech forced 5 turnovers. Now, one of those did come late in the game when it was already really decided, but 5 turnovers. They got a touchdown on a fumble 6. They had 12 TFLs. They had 2 sacks. They were disruptive all over the place. Avery Johnson got hit like he has not really been hit in his career a couple of times, just sort of blindsided when he didn't see it coming. And you expect that certainly with Romello Height, David Bailey, Lee Hunter, everybody that Texas Tech has. And another thing that I noticed just watching the game from the press box throughout, man, the Tech guys know how to talk, man. They chirp. And when you're a defense like that, I think that's a part of the whole aura. So K-State did enough to definitely be in this game. Had they hung on to the ball, I still think Tech was going to outlast them, especially with how the Tech offense adjusted in the second half. And that is one of the big things, too. Like, as good as that defense was and as good as Jacob Rodriguez was, in the third quarter, Texas Tech averaged 12 yards per play, right? They averaged 4 yards per play in the first half. It went to 12 in the third quarter, and they scored 17 points. So that's where the space was really created. And, yes, again, aided by the defense, too, but Tech's offense really made an adjustment there. Jacoby Williams killed K-State in the second half. Some really bad tackling from the Wildcats, but Williams, he's a playmaker, man, and he made plays. So on a day when, frankly, I didn't really think Baron Morton was all that sharp. Let's see what his final line wound up being. Baron Morton was 21 of 32 for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. The one touchdown at the end was great. And he had another ball down the sideline to Virgil that was just a tremendous pass. He had a couple of great moments, but to me, it just looked like he was shaking off some rust and or maybe not totally healthy still. Because like at the end of the game, after that last touchdown pass, I don't know if it showed on the TV cameras. I caught this as he was walking off the field from the press box. He's gimping, he's limping a little bit. So I'm sure some of that is just the guy may not be 100% yet, and there's a reason that he's been held out. I don't say that to like super alarm Texas Tech fans. I honestly say it to elevate the job that he did today, probably playing through something once again, and still wound up with 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That 1 interception came very early, and Avery Johnson turned it over right after that to give the ball right back to Tech. So, man, it's just you watch the Tech defense in person, and I had a chance I went down on the field. I tweeted a couple of videos if you wanted to see that, like the Tech defense up close, but that was kind of fun and eye-opening to go walk down as Tech is warming up and look at the build of those guys on that defensive line and stand next to them. I guess Lee Hunter I saw at Big 12 Media Days, so I had stood next to him as well and chatted with him a little bit. But it's impressive, man. I mean, that Tech D, it is impressive. It is very hard, and especially at the end of the game when you get into a scenario where you have to pass, and Tech knew that Avery Johnson and K-State had to pass the football over and over again at the end of the game. That's when you just know, like, this is trouble. You are going to have a hard time doing much of anything at all because those pass rushers just pin their ears back, and you can only chip so much. K-State's offensive tackles are not built to handle guys like that. And over again, man, they were living in the backfield, forcing Avery Johnson to run around, disrupting everything, intercepting the ball, getting a strip sack. That's when 2 of the turnovers came at the end of the game, when K-State's just like having to drop back and pass. And you're just not going to beat Texas Tech like that. You've got to be really sharp throughout the course of the game, take advantage of anything they give you. K-State didn't do that, right? Austin Romaine gets an interception wearing a freaking club on his hand on Texas Tech's first drive. Avery Johnson throws it right back with, honestly, maybe the worst pass of his season. We have not seen a whole lot of that from Avery Johnson this year, but a really bad interception. You don't cash that in. You don't take advantage. You get the short field. You start on Tech's side of the field. Jace Brown has the big drop that winds up killing a drive and costs you at least 3 points. If you go up by double digits there, 10-0 or 14-0, you start to put more game pressure on Texas Tech. This one might have felt different. At halftime, it felt like, hey, it's 12-7 Tech. It feels like this should be tied, or maybe K-State up by 3 had they taken advantage of some of those opportunities. But you also got to credit Tech, man, for making the plays. Tech fans, I saw you in my mentions all day today about Jacob Rodriguez saying, hey, Heisman, that guy is everywhere. He is a hell of a player. I mean, the stat line doesn't totally do justice to just how good he is watching him fly all over the field. He has 5 tackles, 1 TFL, a pass breakup, 2 forced fumbles. That still is a pretty impressive line, but dude, the guy's amazing. Tech is a more talented team than K-State. This is a thought I was having as I was watching the game, is like K-State was a team thought to be the Big 12 favorite coming into the year, but I think everyone recognized like Tech has the talent based on what happened in the portal. We just hadn't seen it. We've seen this enough now from Texas Tech throughout the season. As long as they are getting competent quarterback play, which like Baron Morton gives you, Will Hammond, much more erratic. If you're getting competent quarterback play with this Tech team and you just let that defense do its thing, it's going to be hard for anybody in the Big 12 to beat them. I've watched BYU in person now. I've watched Texas Tech in person. I'll be interested to see how it goes next week. And I know BYU fans, it's like everybody doubts you all the time, right? I don't mean to be another doubter for BYU, but having seen them both, if Baron Morton is healthy and able to play throughout an entire game, I think that's going to be a tough task for BYU. It does really feel like Texas Tech is just on a different level in terms of the talent and ability that they have on their roster, which should not really be a surprise to anybody. Now, having said that, Tech did turn it over a couple of times today. There were a lot of penalties. It felt like, I guess it wound up being just 4 for 21. There were 3 penalties early on for Tech that were false starts, or they called the one encroachment on the offense, but the offense killed themselves and some drives with those penalties early on. So if you get some of that sloppiness from Texas Tech, obviously that will make a difference, and you're probably going to need some of that, I think, if you are BYU next week. But that's just it. This sets up an incredible game next week between BYU and Tech. I'm sure College Gameday is going to be there. I saw that there was another tease, another nod, another hint to the fact that was probably going to happen from game day today. And we already had Reese Davis basically saying as much during the week. So if you're just a neutral Big 12 observer, like this sets up as best case scenario for the league itself to get the spotlight again next week with what will be the game of the year. Like I know we thought Tech Utah may have been at the time, and that did get a lot of run and a lot of buzz. But now we're deep enough into the season. Storylines have really developed for these teams enough that like you can say, hey, yeah, like this is the Big 12 game of the year. It's going to be Tech and BYU. And as far as the conference race goes, I mean, we did see some things change today. Houston, man. Houston loses by 10 to West Virginia. That is a crazy result, although I thought this was a spot where West Virginia could give Houston a little bit of trouble. So West Virginia rushed for 246 yards and jumped out in front of them, man. It was 14-0, and it felt like the tone had totally been set. And Houston got it rolling offensively a little bit, but also turned it over 4 times today. If you would have told me going into the game, hey, Houston's going to they're going to turn it over 4 times and give up 246 yards rushing, I would say, yeah, they're definitely going to be in some trouble. And I knew right away from watching that game, the first 2 drives and really the second drive for West Virginia was what told me, like, Houston's in some hot water today. Because it's one thing to have the first drive, go for a touchdown, and people will talk about the scripted plays and like, okay, Rich Rod, you had a great scripted first drive there, but what happens next when you're pinned deep? I think it was an 85-yard touchdown drive, the second one. Scotty Fox led him right back down the field again, and it's like, okay, that's not just like scripted plays now. Those are 2 long drives. You're well past the scripted plays, and they're still moving the ball as well as they were. So I felt like at that point, Houston was going to be in for a dogfight, and they were. They were. So Houston is still technically alive, right? And they still have a very manageable schedule, although, you know, TCU and Baylor, they're certainly not gimmies. Maybe UCF isn't either. Well, if they play Houston like they did today, it certainly is not. They're still capable with tiebreakers, I suppose, of potentially getting there. But I think this tells us, like, Houston was not ready for that. They were not ready to be a Big 12 championship game team this year. But there's no shame in that. Like, I understand Houston's taking a lot of crap, and the attendance today, they're getting a lot of crap for that. I'm not here to, like, rub any of that in, Houston fans, at all. Your rebuild is still well ahead of schedule. Willie Fritz is doing his thing. This team is much better. Connor Wigman gives you a much higher ceiling than what the team was last year. Like, feel good about all that. But I do understand today, bitterly disappointing. But that is one of those, it was one of those spots in college football that was so telegraphed. Like, it was easy to see Houston coming off of the high of last week, coming home for a team that they probably feel like they should dominate. And just the letdown factor seemed like it was there. Plus, West Virginia seemed to find a little something with Scotty Fox last week, which, shout out to him, man. Where's Scotty Fox's line? I feel like I wrote that out at some point. I guess I didn't. Scotty Fox, I know, had, there we go, 222 total yards and 3 touchdowns. True freshman out there playing, man. 4th quarterback West Virginia's had to use this year. Credit to Rich Rod for keeping that together, man. College football this day and age, it's really easy for guys to just pack it in, as the season goes along and you get that deep into a season that's not going well. Kudos to West Virginia there. And, man, kudos for Arizona State with, like, the entire roster injured. Kenny Dillingham said after the game, they beat Iowa State, by the way, in Ames. They hung on to win 24-19. But Kenny Dillingham said after the game he's going to give the entire team heading into the bye the entire week off because they're that beat up. But it was like the Jeff Sims legacy game, man. He had over 400 yards of total offense. He had 228 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Jeff Sims just gutted it out. And Rocco Beck did not quite have enough heroics when he needed it. Iowa State, sloppy, although they did. I mean, there are some weird stats from this game. Fairness, I have not had a chance to watch the whole thing because I was here watching this, but I'm going through the box score, and I'm like, Arizona State lost the turnover battle 3-1, had 11 penalties for 119 yards, and still won the game. But when you get a Herculean effort from Jeff Sims, it makes sense. No Sam Levitt, no Jordan Tyson, no problem. You go win in Ames. Look, Iowa State is kind of a shell of itself at this point with the injuries and all that, but you can't use injuries as an excuse today when Arizona State was trotting out the team that it was. It's so heavily reliant on those 2 players, and they didn't have either one. So that will keep Arizona State alive. I mean, they're mathematically alive with just 2 losses there. Technically, Houston is 2, and then I would point out Utah, obviously, a 2-loss team that's still in the race, and then we'll see tonight, if Cincinnati wins, you're talking about really like a 3-team race, it appears, coming down the final couple weeks of the season with maybe some of those 2-loss teams lurking. So congrats to the winners. Congrats to Texas Tech, Arizona State, West Virginia. Fascinating day of Big 12 football so far. Baylor also clubbed UCF 30-3. I don't know that that's going to save Dave Aranda's job, but step in the right direction anyway. So, again, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. As I record this, I don't know what I did. I was going to try and run this as a premiere, which means it looks like it's live, but I'm not actually live. If that is the case and you dropped a super chat, I can't respond to it. I apologize. But if I did just run this as a recording, just ignore all of this. Ignore all of this. Enjoy the content. I will see how things go tonight with that game. If it feels like there's an audience for a live at 12:30 tonight, I'll try to do something. If not, I will definitely talk to you on Sunday one way or the other. So from Bill Snyder Family Stadium, John Kurtz, thanks for watching here on Open for Business. Audio platforms, make sure you rate and review, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, ofbnews.com to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Take care, and I will talk to you all soon.